Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait about 2 more minutes for everyone to get joined, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time this morning to join our webinar. My name is Brian Boscher, and I'm the president of Content Control Central, and I am joined today by two of my colleagues. And together we're going to be presenting on how to increase Content Control Central adoption within your community. So let me start by introducing my co-presenters this morning. So first up, we have Matthew Fu, who is one of our customer success managers on our team. Myself, Brian Boscher, I'm the president. I'm going to be chiming in and updating, providing some input. And then Sri Vadravu, who's our manager of product and operations, he's going to be answering your questions online using the Q&A feature of the webinar. So if you see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A feature there. If you have a question as we go through the webinar, please go ahead and put it in there, and we're going to be stopping at various points throughout the presentation to answer those questions. As promised, everyone who attends today's webinar is going to receive a $5 Starbucks card. This is going to be emailed to you by the end of the week, and we're going to be sending that to the address that you used to register for the webinar. So keep an eye out for it. Also want to mention the webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available. We'll be sending that around to everybody afterward. So if you had to leave early or there was a part you wanted to review, you can always go back and watch that recording a second time. So now to get on with today's agenda. We're going to go through a couple of different techniques to help you improve your adoption in your community. At a high level, first we're going to talk about leading by example, making sure that you're using the system on a regular basis. You're going to be using it to send out announcements, how to push service requests onto the system rather than through email or phone. We're going to talk about gathering e-consent, which is a really critical feature that can help you save money. And then we're going to talk about recording packages and visitors and how that can help with your security desk. Then we're going to talk about what to do if your data's gotten out of date, how to get your data back up to date, and how we can help you with that. We'll talk about the relaunching process. So if you're not having too many people signing in, how can you send out a letter to encourage people to revisit the system? And then finally, we're going to go over some email templates and documents that can help you, and we'll be sending those out after the webinar so you can download them and put them to use. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Matthew Fu, who's going to take us through the rest of the webinar. Matthew, please go ahead.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. It's Matthew Fu. I am the Customer Success Manager here at Condo Control Central, along with one of my other colleagues who's not present today, Greg. So we're going to go through right on this over here. Now, before we get started, though, I just wanted to kind of give you kind of background on the intended audience this webinar is for. So this is mainly for board members and property managers who are relatively new to CCC or have been using it for less than 6 months, or if you are struggling with adoption, have low usage, or let's say if you have Condo Control Central, but you're only really using probably 2 or 3 features, when in reality you have many more options and other things that you are not aware of that you can really use to increase the adoption and really make your money's worth over there as well. If you log into Condo Control daily, or you have post something every week, or if you've been using system for more than 6 months, this webinar may be too basic for you. However, though, we still appreciate your attendance, and if you do need any assistance after the webinar, you're more than welcome to reach out to us as well. So before we get started, I want to say, how do we get help? So our office hours are Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time. We are available from, in the phone and or email. Right over here, you're going to see the technical support email and phone number, as well as myself and Greg's email and phone number. So the first topic we're going to talk about is leading by example, which is use it. So start by using the system. So send notifications out to those who you have in your database. Don't stop using the system, and do not wait to gather more emails. This is something that's going to be taken over time. So if you have, let's say, 50%, 60% emails, start with those 60% and slowly gain up those as well. Word of mouth heavily works in your favor. Individuals are going to be talking about it. They're going to be saying about the notifications that they received instantly, let's say a couple minutes ago, and other people who aren't going to receive that are going to wonder how do they get on that email list, and that's where they're going to approach you. Most importantly, though, is in the long run, this will save the corporation money. Now, how do I first start? How do I start sending out notifications? The first thing you're going to do is send out announcements. This is probably the most basic and easiest way to get in communication with your owners and residents. You can send the regular updates such as elevators out of service, upcoming community events, or even maybe planned fire alarm testing that you have. You can also use it for other formal and mandatory documents such as the AGM package or the budget or the reserve fund studies. Now, I just want to elaborate a little bit on one thing, which is the budget mailout. The budget mailout feature is something that we do have in the system that is free, that is a part of your package or Condo Control Central. If you're looking to acquire a little bit more information on how to do this or how to use this feature more in depth, you can notify our support team, or you can contact your dedicated customer success manager, whether that be myself or my colleague Greg. Moving forward also is that you can direct all service requests to Condo Control Central. So no longer do you want to receive all those emails to your management email of all the service requests or to your phone line. Those get lost, and those can take some while to retrieve, and in turn your owners and residents can be frustrated. So what you want to do is you want to put this autoresponder email template that we can help provide to you, and that will redirect them over to Condo Control Central to place their service requests over there. It's nice and convenient. It's all located in one spot. And also the great thing is that it's very transparent. It gives a clear communication between property managers and board members, as well as from the management to the owners and residents. We also have user guides available for the owners and residents to use. So if they do have any difficulties of how to put that in the system, that we have that available. We also have a phone and email support for them as well. Nicole?
So Matthew, I'm going to jump in here just for a second. So just to expand on this a bit, the template on the right is a sample provided to us by one of our clients, and they've been a client for several years on Condo Control Central, and they are extremely effective at getting all of their communication and everything into the system. This is one of the techniques that they use, and they said for them it's been very effective, and we're happy to share the template. So this is one of the things that we'll provide after the webinar, so you can take a look at it. You know, all of the email programs, whether you use Gmail or Outlook, they all have a feature that allows you to set an auto response so that everyone who emails you will get a copy of this. So it looks like we don't have any questions so far. So just a reminder, if you have a question, feel free to click the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, ask a question, and then we will answer it throughout the webinar. So Matthew, you can go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So moving on, we have the e-delivery consent feature. So how this works is it's going to ask your owners to provide consent for receiving documents by email. It's also going to prompt your owners and residents when they log into the system to sign for it as well, and also during the proxy process. Now, again, proxy is a separate feature entirely. So if you'd like to find a little bit more information about this specifically and how we can help you achieve quorum, you can contact one of your dedicated customer success managers. The system also guides the owner through signing the standard Ontario consent form, so there's no confusion, there is no headaches of, if they can complete it out themselves. It's really straightforward and makes it as simple as possible. Another thing as well is they can revoke the consent anytime they want. So for example, if the owner or resident decides, the owner decides to revoke that consent a month after signing it, they can do that, and as well as there's a history log of this in the system, so you as a property manager are aware of this when and how it was done. By default, the feature is turned off already. However, though, a CCC administrator can help to turn this on in the setup page, or if you like to do it yourself, we do have instructions on how to do this on our new YouTube channel that we do have up and running as well. So just going forward, this is an example of one of the pop-ups that will appear when the owners and residents or owner logs into the system. This is how the form will actually look. The signature will obviously look a little bit better than what you have over here in just in test. And as well as we have a visual graph of the kind of trend and the way you're going to see that number go up for the amount of e-consents that you have. Now, when you first turn this on, don't be turned away from maybe probably 3 or 4 days in, you only have maybe 40 or 50%. Don't get turned off by that. This is kind of one of those long run term kind of adjustments that you're going to have to make, and it will increase over time. So start your 50%, maybe you'll get 70% after a month, and then maybe work your way to a 90% after 2 months after that. So again, think of it, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and in turn, most importantly, this will save the corporation money. Again, we also have these setup instructions available on YouTube, like you have over here, as many other different videos as well that you can view that may be of assistance to you.
So just to jump in here for a second, we had a question from one of our attendees. So Abe is asking, is there an Alberta version of the e-consent form or a custom form that we can add? It's a great question. Yes, so the system supports 2 versions. We have the Ontario specific form, which was launched in 2017 by the government. We also have a custom form where you can put in whatever wording that you want to use. The person signs it, and it'll be good for your local jurisdiction. And we do have clients in Alberta who are using that. So there's a couple other questions here. Give me 1 second. Yep. So Maureen asked the same question. So yep, there's got that answered, and then Emilio asked a question. He said, tips on dealing with more seasoned owners. It's a great question. So we've got a couple of features here that can really help with that. So the first one is the ability to send voice and text messages. So for example, if you're sending out an announcement about a water shutdown, elevator out of service, or an upcoming event, by default, those are going to go out by email. If you have an older population, more retirees in your condo, what you can do is you can add on our voice and text package. That will allow you to send those same notices. Those people who have a cell phone in the system are going to get a text message. Those people who don't have a cell phone but have a landline, like a home number in the system, are going to get an automated voice recording or a robocall. That allows you to contact those people even if they don't use a computer. The other feature we have that's really applicable for this is our lobby display. So if you have a common area, either by an elevator or a mailroom, and you want to put a digital display board there, any of the things that you post on Condo Control Central can then be posted on that display board as well. So I hope that answers your question, Emilio. If you want more clarification, you can you can comment. So we have a question here from Alexis about e-consent. So she says, I post a lot of announcements versus notices, and most people don't need to log in for that. So they do not complete the consent. Any advice? Yes, great question, Alexis. Two recommendations here. So number one, even though they don't log in, they still have the opportunity, and we still prompt them to complete the e-consent. So if you've ever clicked on a link for one of your announcements, you'll see that. So they do have an opportunity. The best way we have to get people to consent is if you look at these two videos that Matthew has on the screen here, the one on the right, how to send electronic consent emails, is basically how you can send a reminder to your residents, and it's only going to go to those people who haven't consented. So let's say out of, you have 100 people in the property, 40 of them have consented, and you want to target those other 60, you can send that email. You can send it maybe once a month, every couple of weeks, until you get the participation that you want. So hopefully that's helpful for you. So Maria has a question here. She says, I printed an electronic consent report, but I don't know when I see the attachment column that says no, that means they have not consented. So no, what that means is there's no document attached in the system. So what I'll do is we'll make a note of it, and I'll get Matthew or Greg to follow up with you after the webinar. Okay, so Matthew, you can go ahead.
Okay, moving forward. So one of the also features that we have to increase adoption is features that are used by the concierge. Now, if you do have a concierge in your corporation, this is something that you definitely want to look at. The first thing is the package/parcel tracking. That includes instant notification, and that's email, text, and voice. So what's fantastic about this is that as an owner, or resident, they can be doing stuff in their own unit or etc., and receive that notification instantly, notified that they have to come down, or they can go downstairs to the security desk and pick up that package. That is a lot faster than waiting for them to print out the slip and to put it in their mailbox and having to check that consistently. So again, use that feature. We also have visitor parking, incident reports, daily logs, and patrol and checkpoints. Now, the security patrol and checkpoints, this is an additional feature that is separate. However, if you'd like to find more information about this feature specifically, you can contact us, us being the customer success managers, whether it be myself or Greg. Now, what happens
Matthew, sorry to interrupt there. If you can go back for 1 second on the concierge, just really want to reiterate, if you have a security desk, but you're not using the security features, get in touch with us. Whatever roadblocks you're facing, sometimes there's, poor communication between management or security. Whatever those issues are that might be blocking you from using security, let us know, and we'll help you work through it. This is a really valuable part of the system, and if you're paying for it but not using it, we want to help out. So just wanted to mention that.
So moving on. So what happens if the database is out of date? There's not everything there. There's a lot of manual work I have to do. What do I do? So Content Control can actually help. So our registration feature that we have can help gather missing details. So when they do register for the system, they have the ability to add in those additional kind of fields such as emergency contacts, vehicles, stuff like that, anything that you want to give them permission to add themselves. We can also provide templates. So as you saw earlier, and what we can show later, is we have templates that you can use to gather additional or get more up-to-date information. And we also do provide data entry services and also helping you re-upload your database in the unit file. I will make a note over here, there is an additional charge for this, and it varies depending on the complexity and the size of that database that needs to be cleaned and re-imported into the system. Now, if you do need to go with one of these two options, again, contact your dedicated customer success manager and we will look into it and get you up and running as soon as possible. Another thing is resetting those welcome letters. So the purpose is to solicit additional owners and residents to sign up. How it works, you can do it via email. So if they do have an email in the system, you'll be triggered that way. And if they do get it by mail, what they're going to do is they're going to see that welcome letter via mail. It's going to have their unit number and their temporary password. They're able to go into the system, register, and include their email as well. So again, at the very start, if you don't have very many, when you're sending out these welcome mails or printouts, what you're going to do is as people register, you're going to increase that over time. So again, bringing back to our first point of long run, saving the corporation money, and again, using what you have. So don't stop if you only have 50% emails, keep going, and eventually over time, you'll continue to get those. Now, how to do this yourself is we do have video instructions available to you on our YouTube channel. However, though, if you would like to schedule a call with us, you can do so, and we can walk you through that. And just an example over here, like I mentioned before, the templates and documents that can help. So here that you're seeing on the screen is something that you can provide to owners and residents to fill out and get those up-to-date information. And also we have these kind of pretty documents that you can either print and you maybe want to put on the front door of the management office. You can do that as well.
So Matthew, actually, if you go back
Sure.
one step here. So like Matthew said, we're going to be sending these out afterwards so that you can use them. You're going to get them in a Word format so you can customize it, tweak it however you want to. The first one on the left is intended to be something that you can hand out, slip under people's doors, or leave a stack of them at the front desk if you have security. The idea is to get people to give you, their unit number and their email addresses. Once you have their email, your communication efforts get a lot more rewarded. It's much easier to reach people when you've got their email. The second one on the right here is sort of a sign that you can put by the front desk. If you have your security there 24/7, you can encourage people to leave their email address with security. So it's just different avenues for you to reach out to your owners and residents. And then on the next slide here, like Matthew said, we've got these also in Word format or as a little pop-up stand that you can put on the front desk. So we'll be sending out a link with all of this stuff available to help you.
Yep. So things to do this week. So this is kind of your task to kind of increase adoption. And the first one is put the system to use. Like we said at the very beginning, post an announcement this week if you haven't already. Make sure you consistently post, make sure you can keep that communication between yourself and the owners and residents as much as possible. So that way you're really experiencing the true value of Content Control Central. Set up that autoresponder. So like Brian mentioned before, we're gonna send you in the, after the webinar email, there will be a kind of a template that you can use that will be for your management email that you can use to push everyone to get on the Content Control Central and to get off just emailing you or phoning you. Enable e-consent, turn this on, it's free. There's no reason why you shouldn't have this on. So please turn that on and start getting used to that as well. Like I said earlier, mentioned in the second point, watch out for the post-webinar email, which will help you with the templates that you can use to customize specifically for your corporation. And if your database is out of date, contact us and we'll get back to you as soon as possible and we'll make sure we get you up and running as well. Just as a quick reminder how to reach us, again, we operate from Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time, and we are available via phone and email. Again, looking at below, you can see the support email and phone number, as well as the dedicated customer success manager contact info for myself, Matthew, and my colleague, Greg. And coming soon, so this is something that we're coming up in our next release. We have a file library overhaul. So it's much improved. It looks a lot better. I've seen it actually. So it's really exciting to show off to you guys very shortly. We also have portfolio management for clients who manage multiple buildings and sites. Tasks on mobile, this was heavily requested. We are putting this out onto the iOS and the Android store or Android app, so you can look forward to that. And also we have Yardi integrations. So if you are using Yardi, we are looking for a few pilot clients right now. So if you are interested, please reach out to us and we'll get in discussion as well. And last and foremost, we're going to do, I guess, end of webinar Q&As. So.
Yeah. So thank you, Matthew. Appreciate your going through all of that for everybody. So we're at the end of the webinar. If you have questions or there's something you wanted to ask about but we've not yet covered, then we'll answer them now. So I have a question here from Abe. Maybe, so Abe, your question is financial information access. When is this being released? So if you can just clarify a little bit what you mean by that. Currently, we have integrations with a number of different accounting platforms, and there are more on the way. But if you yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, Abe. So Abe is asking specifically about Condo Manager integration. So the Condo Manager, we have right now a one-way sync, the two-way sync, and the access to the owner information is going to be available by the end of Q2. So it should be by the end of June at the latest. So Bill is asking a question here. Is there a way to add pages with our own content, sort of like WordPress? The answer to that is no, there's not currently. That's a good idea. It's something that is not committed, but it's been mentioned by other clients, and it is on our product roadmap. We've had a couple people who are interested in that. Just so you know, if you're okay with having content pages that are public facing, we do offer WordPress websites as a feature. So if you're interested in that, you can reach out and we'll get you set up with a WordPress site. For now, though, there's no ability to have content pages like that. So we have another question here from someone on the security side. So he says, how can we merge two sites when we sign in the beginning of my shift? So that's a great question. We actually have a feature specifically for this. It's where you have, we call it linked workspaces. So let's say you have two towers, like a tower A, a north tower and a south tower, but one joined security task between the two. The way this works, we link the workspaces, and then when you log in, you can post packages, reports, incidents, etc., to either of the two workspaces. So if you want to reach out to the customer success team after the webinar, we can help you get that set up, because that's something that we have to turn on from our side. So it requires coordination with management. So we have a question here from John. So he's saying, currently I have to log in to see if any new comments have been made to the discussion group. When will additions to the discussion group be pushed out to those who subscribe to it? Great question. That is on our roadmap, and that is currently planned for this quarter. So it may be before the end of the quarter, but it'll definitely be by the end. So Grace Lee has a question. Is there a way for owners to to unsubscribe from announcements and continue to receive notices? So currently, no, there is not. So, but there is an improvement coming. So right now, just to give everyone a little background on how it works, because of the anti-spam legislation, we have to comply with people's unsubscribe requests. And as it stands now, the system is designed where if you unsubscribe, you stop getting everything. Again, coming out in one of our near future releases, we have a change planned where you're going to be able to specify your email preferences on that page, which will hopefully allow people to narrow down, dial into what exactly it is that they want to receive. So good suggestion, Grace. Question from Harold. So any tips on how to encourage board directors and property managers who are uncomfortable with technology to buy into CCC? That's a great question. There's always people there who are not super comfortable with technology. Let's start with the biggest and the easiest driver for board members is saving money. If you take a look at your print and mail budget for the last fiscal year, it's going to give you an idea how much you could potentially save. If you turn on e-consent, if you you get 30, 40, 50% adoption, you can literally cut your budget for printing and mailing in half. I don't think there's anything you're going to do that's going to get them personally involved, but by saving money, they can at least appreciate why it's necessary and what the benefit is to them. So I hope that helps. Couple other questions here. So Grace had a question about user deleted and associated information not being deleted. So Grace, that looks like a bug. I'll get Sri to take a look at that, and then he can get back to you after we've had a chance to look at it. Carmen has a question. Will we be able to send individual budget letters, and how soon? Absolutely, that is already in. We put that feature in, I believe, maybe in March. So that's available. If you there's articles on the support center, or if you want to call in, you can talk to Matthew or Greg, and they'll be able to help walk you through that. So Mark has a great question. Mark has a great question here about user logins. The report tells you when someone has logged in. Is there a way to get a report that includes when? Good question. We don't have it currently, but if you need that information for a particular reason, you can reach out. We are able to access that on the back end, but we'll think about putting a report in so that you guys can do that. So Heather has a question here. She says, we have many senior owners here who have not even tried to log into Condo Control, and many who have tried but were not successful. Do you have a link that you can send me so I can help them retry to sign in? Great question. So yes, we can definitely help you with that. There's a couple of things here to point out. Number one, if they need help, if you're noticing a lot of people are having trouble, you can talk to your customer success manager. If there's an issue or a problem with your data that might be causing it, we can help you sort that out. The other thing that we've seen is very helpful. It's interesting. A lot of seniors that we've interacted with are more comfortable on mobile than on desktop. They feel safer. They feel like it's an iPhone. It's simple. It's easy to use. So they can use the mobile app to get signed in and get their notices rather than on desktop. That's an option. For sure, though, if you want to help a specific person try and log in again, you can access their access code. It's going to be in the unit file next to their name. You can see it right there. If you need help walking through that, let us know, and we can definitely help with that. They also are, if you don't have time or you're busy or you're not sure what the problem is, you can also always direct them to our support line. We're here, like Matthew said, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and when we do our best, most calls are answered within 1 or 2 minutes, so there's not a long wait. Another question here from the security side. Can the site supervisor have access to CCC to add or delete guards? Absolutely. That's a matter of configuration, and the permissions are there. The permissions are very flexible. So if you want to enable that, you can certainly do that. Either you or your property manager can reach out, and we'll help you set up those permissions if you don't know how. And so Ben, you said you have a question here. You said you sent forms last week. I'm going to have Matthew follow up with you on that just after the webinar. So not sure exactly what you're referring to there. And then Mark has a question. Do you have a community or user forum somewhere where all of us can help each other and ask questions? No, we do not, but that's a great idea. It's a very interesting one. Let us take that away, and we'll think about that and see what we can set up. But yeah, that would be great. So that's the questions. So we've 20 questions, 21 questions so far. Anything else you guys wanted to ask before we log out? One of the other things that we've seen buildings do, and it really depends, if you have a board member who's interested or property manager, you have time, to deal with the question of seniors or retirees who can't get signed in. If you set up a time, say 1 hour, 2 hours in an evening, you say, you know, we're going to have somebody sitting there, you know, a board member or someone who's tech savvy and can help them through it, and allow people to come down if they're having trouble, ask a question, get logged in. It's something that's been helpful, and we can provide you the tools, you know, if you have templates or anything that, like the templates to share with them. So, any other questions? Those were good. Okay, well, I think we've answered all the questions. Oh, we got one more here. So David is asking, can you put a screenshot from security data and put it into the owner's file, an accidental pet mess, for example? Yes, you could. So you have file attachments available in the file, in the unit file. So if you were to take a screenshot of an incident or a file, you can certainly upload it there. There's no ability to link it currently, but it is on our list. We've considered putting incidents, linking them into the unit file. It's not there currently, though. Emilio has a question. Is there a way to give custodians access to CCC but not confidential data, e.g. financial data, budgets in the library? Absolutely, 100%. So again, this goes back to setting up custom permissions. So if you want to set up a special group, you set them up. You can give them, say, access to open, respond to, resolve service requests, but not access to the file library. So keep in mind every file and every folder in the file library has its own permission settings. So if you, say, create a new group called superintendent, and you don't give them access to anything in the file library, they're not going to see anything at all. So you don't have to worry about that. So again, if you need help, reach out. The support team is very happy to help with this sort of stuff. And Maria just said, thanks for the webinar. You are very welcome, Maria. Thanks for joining, and thanks for taking the time. So we'll just give it another minute here. If you have any last minute questions, go ahead and put them in, and then we'll wrap up in the next minute or two. Okay, well, it looks like, oh, one more here. Okay, great questions here. So a couple more. So Grace has asked, where can I see the e-consent chart? Good question. You're going to go on the upper right-hand corner, click on your name, click on Setup, and then there's a second tab there that says e-consent. You click on that, and then you click on the details icon, and that'll help you pull up the e-consent. Mark has a question. Is there a way to add a new unit owner without generating an email? I'd like to control when it goes out. Great question. There's not currently a proper way to do that. The workaround we typically tell people, you can add somebody without their email. If you then edit them and put the email in, an email will not go out. And then there's a button there where you can send, you can hit resend. And then that'll help you to work around. It's not ideal, but it'll get the job done. So Heather has a question. Our database is very out of date. I would be able to update this very quickly. How do I get permission? Great question, Heather. So you're going to talk to your customer success manager. So if you're just going to send an email after the webinar, customersuccess@condocontrolcentral.com. We're going to look into your file, verify who you are, which building it's about, and then from there, we'll get you the permission after it's been verified. And then you can go in and do your updates. Good question. Abe, you got a question. You said there's a new feature that allows late tech adopters to call in or text, I believe. Was there a phone feature of some type? Not yet. We've been talking about it. It's on the roadmap. It's not live yet. But basically, it would be something along the lines of transcribing a voicemail into a service request. But that's longer term, probably towards the end of the year. Ben has a question. How do we know if an owner or resident has registered? It's a great question. I believe we have a report for it. I'm not 100% sure, so we're gonna have to. I'll get back to you on that one. I know on the back end we have a status that we can see, but I don't know if that's exposed on the front end. Okay, last one here from Kelvin. Is there a way to merge service requests of the same owner, i.e. an owner keeps making a new service request on the same problem? Currently not, so that's a good suggestion. We'll put it into the roadmap and we'll see about that, see about getting it done. The way I would just handle it is, you can close the duplicate and just put a comment in saying, this is duplicate, refer to service request 1234. Okay, so thank you all for your questions. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the participation. Like we said, you're all going to get your $5 Starbucks gift card by the end of the week. Again, if you have any questions or you need anything from us, you know how to reach us. We're here to help you and make your job easier. Thanks for joining.